What makes a scene stick with you? What's the secret sauce that takes a moment in a dark theater and burns it into your brain forever? It's not always about the monster you see. Sometimes it's about the one you don't. It's the sound that makes the hair on your arm stand up, or the silence that stretches for just a second too long. From the jump scares that stop your heart to the creeping dread that follows you home, these are the scenes that didn't just scare us. They defined fear for a generation. They became instant classics, setting a new bar for terror that filmmakers are still trying to clear decades later. Tonight, we're not just watching them, we're dissecting them to figure out why they work so well. These are the 10 scariest horror movie scenes that will keep you up all night. What horror scene haunts your nightmares? Let's see if it made our list. Welcome, horror fans. In the great, blood-soaked hall of horror cinema, some moments just transcend the screen. They become cultural touchstones, whispered about on playgrounds and endlessly debated online. These aren't just scary scenes. They're expert-level lessons in manipulation, exercises in terror that weaponize sound, shadow, and our own deepest anxieties against us. For this list, we're focusing on the icons, the scenes from mainstream horror that became legendary the moment they first flickered on screen. We're peeling back the skin to look at the filmmaking mechanics, the psychological triggers, and the sheer lightning-in-a-bottle brilliance that made these moments eternal. We'll explore how directors use everything from agonizingly slow pacing to explosive, shocking violence to get under our skin. This isn't just about what's scary, it's about the craft of being scary. So turn down the lights, check the locks, and get ready, because our countdown begins now. Coming in at number 10 is the scene that arguably created the modern horror film as we know it. From Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 masterpiece Psycho, it's of course the shower scene. This moment is so iconic, it might be the most famous movie scene in history, period. Let's set the stage. Marion Crane, played by Janet Leigh, is on the run after stealing $40,000. Exhausted and guilty, she checks into the desolate Bates Motel, run by the polite but peculiar Norman Bates. After a weird dinner with Norman, Marion decides to wash away her sins with a shower. She's planning to return the money and make things right. The water is a symbol of cleansing, and we feel a sense of relief, like a resolution is coming. And that's exactly when Hitchcock pulls the rug out from under not just his character, but the entire world of cinema. What makes this scene so terrifying isn't a monster or gore, it's the surgical precision of its construction. The scene is 3 minutes long and uses over 50 rapid-fire cuts, an editing style that was revolutionary. It creates a feeling of chaotic, brutal violence without ever actually showing the knife-breaking skin. The sound design is just as critical. Bernard Herrmann's screeching violins have become the universal sound for terror, mimicking screams. The only other sounds are the rushing water and the sickening thuds of the knife, famously created by stabbing a melon. But Hitchcock's greatest trick here is psychological. He spends the first act building Marion Crane up as our hero. We're invested in her story. To then kill her off so brutally and so early was a shocking violation of the unspoken contract between a filmmaker and the audience. It told everyone watching that no one was safe, and the old rules no longer applied. This wasn't just a scare, it was an act of cinematic terrorism. The fear comes from the sudden loss of control and the shattering of our expectations. It's a masterwork of suggestion and suspense that has been studied and imitated for over 60 years, but never, ever surpassed. At number 9, we have a scene that proves horror doesn't need a jump scare, a monster, or even music to be terrifying. It just needs a good story. From Steven Spielberg's 1975 blockbuster Jaws, it's Quint's chilling monologue about the USS Indianapolis. The context is deceptively calm. Our three heroes, Brody, Hooper, and the grizzled shark hunter Quint, are on the Orca at night, drinking and comparing scars. It's a classic moment of male bonding, a brief break from hunting the great white shark terrorizing their island. The mood is almost lighthearted until Hooper points to a scar on Quint's arm. Quint explains it was for the USS Indianapolis, and just like that, the mood shifts. The boat seems to stop rocking, the world falls silent. What follows is one of the most mesmerizing and horrifying monologues in film history. Robert Shaw as Quint delivers an almost 4-minute speech about the true story of the naval ship torpedoed in the final days of World War II. Over 900 men went into the water. Quint describes the waiting, the sun, and then the arrival of the sharks. The horror here is purely psychological, built on the power of storytelling and performance. Shaw's delivery is hauntingly matter-of-fact. There's no melodrama, just the gentle lapping of waves and Quint's hollow, dead-eyed recollection. He talks about the sharks arriving, about bumping into his friends in the water, only to realize it was just parts of them. You know the thing about a shark? He's got lifeless eyes, black eyes like a doll's eyes. When he comes at you, doesn't seem to be living, until he bites you. This scene is terrifying because it grounds the movie's monster shark in a horrific real-world event. It's a ghost story told by a man who is truly haunted. Spielberg masterfully keeps the camera tight on Brody and Hooper, whose expressions slowly curdle from fascination into silent horror. Our imagination does all the work, painting a picture more disturbing than any special effect could. The scene fundamentally changes our understanding of the monster they're hunting. It's no longer just a fish, it's an ancient, unstoppable engine of death with those same lifeless eyes. For our number 8 spot, we rocket from the depths of the ocean to the cold, unforgiving vacuum of space. From Ridley Scott's 1979 sci-fi horror masterpiece Alien, this is the scene that tore its way into cinematic history, the chestburster. The setup is a classic calm before the storm. The crew of the Nostromo is gathered around the table, sharing a meal. It's the first time they've been able to relax since Kane was attacked by that alien facehugger. Now he seems totally fine, joking and eating like crazy. The crisis seems to be over. The crew is laughing, the lighting is bright, and the audience, along with the characters, lets their guard down completely. Then, Kane starts to cough. He chokes, then convulses, falling onto the table in agony. The crew rushes to help him. Suddenly his body trembles. A small red stain blossoms on his white shirt. Then, with a sickening crunch, a small glistening head punches through his chest, squealing and covered in blood. The infant xenomorph pauses, surveys the stunned and screaming crew, and then scurries off into the ship. The sheer visceral shock of this scene is impossible to overstate. It's a primal violation, a horrifying twist on childbirth that combines body horror, gore, and a massive jump scare into one unforgettable moment. What makes it legendary is the story behind it. Ridley Scott was determined to get genuine reactions. The actors knew something would happen, but they had no idea about the sheer volume of blood and real animal organs Scott's team had packed into the prosthetic chest. When it finally burst, the actors' shock and terror were completely authentic. Veronica Cartwright was hit with a jet of stage blood, and her scream of genuine horror is unforgettable. The chestburster scene is a pivotal moment in horror. It's a perfect storm of brilliant practical effects, directorial cunning, and raw, unfiltered performance. It weaponized our deep-seated fears of bodily invasion and the unknown, creating a moment so traumatic and unexpected that it remains the benchmark for body horror to this day. At number 7, we're heading to the desolate, paranoid landscape of Antarctica for a scene that is, honestly, a symphony of tension, practical effects, and pure nightmare fuel. From John Carpenter's 1982 classic, The Thing, it's the defibrillator scene. The paranoia at U.S. Outpost 31 is at a fever pitch. The men know an alien is among them, one that can perfectly imitate any living thing. No one knows who is human. When geologist Norris seems to die from a heart attack, Dr. Copper prepares to use a defibrillator. The men stand around, their faces etched with fear and suspicion. Carpenter, a master of suspense, uses misdirection perfectly here. We think we know what's coming. We expect Norris to leap up, revealing he's the Thing. But Carpenter had something far more grotesque in mind. As Copper places the paddles on Norris's chest and calls "Clear!" the unthinkable happens. Norris's chest cavity splits open into a massive, toothy maw that chomps down, severing Copper's arms at the elbows. It's a moment of absolute shock, but it's what happens next that cements this scene as a horror legend. As the men reel back in terror, Norris's head stretches and detaches itself from the body. It slides onto the floor, sprouts spider-like legs, and tries to scuttle away before being torched with a flamethrower. The genius here is in the spectacular practical effects created by the legendary Rob Bottin. To get the arm-chomping shot, they used a double amputee fitted with prosthetic arms made of gelatin and wax bones. The surreal head spider was a combination of radio controls and puppetry. These effects are so visceral and disturbingly tangible that they still have the power to shock today. But the horror is more than just gore. It's the sheer biological wrongness of it all. The scene shatters our understanding of life, presenting a creature that follows no rules we recognize. It's a moment of pure, Lovecraftian horror, a glimpse into an alien reality so incomprehensible it threatens our sanity. Crawling into our number 6 spot is a scene that, really terrified a new generation and made them eye their television sets with some serious suspicion. From Gore Verbinski's 2002 remake The Ring, it's the moment Samara comes home. The premise is modern folklore at its finest. Watch a cursed videotape, get a phone call whispering 7 days and a week later you die. Our hero Rachel has watched the tape and so has her ex, Noah. As the 7th day ticks down, Noah is alone in his apartment, thinking he's safe because he made a copy of the tape. He was wrong. The scene starts with a quiet, creeping unease. The TV in Noah's apartment turns on by itself, showing only static. This isn't a jump scare, it's a slow burn announcement that something is terribly wrong. The static gives way to the grainy footage from the cursed tape, ending on the image of an old well. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, a small, dark figure begins to climb out. It's Samara. What makes this so effective is how it smashes the ultimate barrier, the one between the screen and our reality. As Samara lurches towards the camera inside the TV, we see the image glitch and distort. Then, the impossible happens. Samara's hand, then her whole body, pushes through the screen, spilling water onto Noah's floor as she crawls out of the television and into his living room. The sequence is a masterclass in blending horror techniques. The found footage style of the cursed video feels disturbingly real. The sound design is just the buzz of static, dripping water, and the unnatural, disjointed way Samara moves. The horror is in her methodical, unstoppable approach. She doesn't run, she lurches, her body moving in a way that is profoundly unnatural. It's the uncanny valley in motion. The final reveal of her waterlogged, monstrous face is the terrifying punctuation mark, but the true horror is the journey to get there. The Ring weaponized the technology in everyone's home, turning an object of comfort into a portal for evil. For our number 5 pick, we're looking at the uniquely modern horror of found footage with a scene that is, well, simple, brutal, and utterly soul-crushing. From Scott Derrickson's 2012 nightmare Sinister, it's the home movie titled Lawn Work 86. The film follows true crime writer Ellison Oswald, who moves his family into a house where a gruesome murder happened. In the attic, he finds a box of Super 8 home movies, each showing the horrific murder of a different family. The horror in Sinister works on 2 levels. There's the supernatural demon Bughul, and then there's the raw, grainy horror of the films themselves, the lawn work. 86 tape is arguably the most disturbing of the bunch. The setup is mundane. The camera is positioned low, seemingly attached to a lawnmower. We hear the familiar whir of the engine. The footage is dark, lit only by the mower's headlight as it rolls slowly across a lawn at night. The buildup is agonizing. Derrickson holds the shot, letting the quiet mechanical sound and the limited viewpoint create an almost unbearable level of suspense. You know something awful is coming, but you don't know what or when. Suddenly the quiet is shattered by a piercing scream as the lawnmower rolls over a person hidden in the grass. We don't see the gore up close. The horror comes from the abrupt violence, the sickening sound, and the chilling implication. Our imagination is forced to fill in the gruesome blanks, which is always more terrifying than what a filmmaker could show. This scene is a perfect example of how found footage creates a potent kind of terror. The grainy, lo-fi quality of the Super 8 film makes it feel chillingly authentic, like something you were never supposed to see. The slow, deliberate pacing builds incredible tension, and the final jump scare pays it off in the most shocking way possible. It's a moment that burrows deep into your psyche and serves as the dark, rotten heart of one of the scariest films of the 21st century. Coming in at number 4 is a scene that isn't just scary, it's a moment of gut-wrenching trauma that leaves the audience in a state of stunned silence. From Ari Aster's 2018 debut, Hereditary, it is the telephone pole scene. The setup is steeped in family dysfunction. Teenager Peter is forced to take his strange younger sister Charlie to a party. Peter, wanting to get high, leaves Charlie unattended. Charlie, who has a severe nut allergy, eats a piece of cake containing walnuts and goes into anaphylactic shock. What follows is just pure escalating panic. Peter speeds down a dark country road, trying to get his gasping sister to a hospital. Charlie, desperate for air, sticks her head out the car window. The sound design is claustrophobic and terrifying, just Charlie's ragged breathing and Peter's panicked cries. As Peter flies through the night, he suddenly swerves to avoid a dead deer in the road. In that split second, the passenger side of the car slams into a telephone pole. The sound is deafening. Then, silence. Ari Aster makes a choice here that is both brilliant and cruel. He keeps the camera locked on Peter's face for what feels like an eternity. We see the shock, the denial, the slow dawning realization of the horror that just happened. He doesn't look back. He can't. He just drives home, the silence in the car screaming louder than any sound could. The horror isn't just the shocking violence of Charlie's accidental decapitation, it's the psychological aftermath. The film forces us to sit in the unbearable quiet with Peter. The next morning, the mother's cheerful call to her kids is met with silence. She goes out to the car and we don't see what she finds. We only hear it, a raw, primal scream of a mother's grief that is one of the most soul-shattering sounds in horror history. This scene is so effective because it treats death not as a cheap scare but as a devastating, life-altering event. It proves the most terrifying horror is the kind that feels terrifyingly real. Our number 3 spot goes to a raw, brutal, and shockingly abrupt introduction to one of horror's most enduring icons. From Tobe Hooper's 1974 grindhouse masterpiece The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this is the moment we first meet Leatherface. The film, up to this point, has been drenched in a grimy, sun-bleached dread. A group of friends low on gas in rural Texas finds an isolated farmhouse. Two of them, Kirk and Pam, approach the house to ask for gas. The air is thick with the promise of violence. Kirk enters the house alone, calling out, "Hello?" There is no music, no warning. From a dark, blood-red doorway, a hulking figure appears. He's a large man in a butcher's apron, wearing a grotesque mask made of human skin. This is Leatherface. There's no chase, no dialogue. In one swift, shocking motion, Leatherface hits Kirk in the head with a sledgehammer. Kirk's body convulses. Leatherface drags him back into the doorway and slams a heavy metal door shut. The sound echoes with a sickening finality, leaving Pam, and us, in stunned silence. The sheer suddenness of the violence is what makes this so terrifying. Hooper doesn't build suspense in a traditional way, he builds a sense of pervasive unease and then shatters it with shocking brutality. Leatherface himself is terrifying. He's not supernatural, he's a figure of primitive, animalistic violence. Gunnar Hansen, the actor who first played him, described Leatherface as a big baby killing out of fear because strangers invaded his home. This somehow makes him even more frightening. His actions aren't born of malice but of a disturbed, childlike panic, which makes him completely unpredictable. The scene's power is amplified by its raw, documentary-style filmmaking. The grainy 16mm film and lack of a score make the horror feel disturbingly real. That slamming metal door is one of the most haunting images in cinema. It's a barrier, shutting us out but trapping Kirk inside with an unimaginable horror. It's a statement of intent, signaling that this film will offer no comfort, no escape, and no mercy. At number 2, we have a scene so blasphemous, so psychologically violating, and so shocking that it caused people to faint and flee theaters in 1973. From William Friedkin's The Exorcist, it is the infamous crucifix scene. By this point, young Regan McNeil's transformation from a sweet girl into a demonic vessel is well underway. Her mother Chris is desperate, but nothing can prepare her, or the audience, for what she's about to see. Hearing a horrific noise, Chris bursts into Regan's freezing bedroom. Regan, her face a mask of sores, and her voice a guttural growl, is violently stabbing at her own groin with a crucifix. The demon screams obscenities, "Let Jesus F you!" before turning Regan's head and forcing it into her own bloody crotch, taunting her mother with the ultimate act of defilement. This scene is terrifying on so many levels. First, the raw shock value. It's a direct and profane assault on religious iconography and innocence. In an era when such topics were taboo, this was a cinematic transgression that shattered boundaries. The horror is also deeply psychological, playing on a parent's worst fear, the complete loss of their child to an evil they can't understand. Ellen Burstyn's performance as Chris is key. Her face is a canvas of disbelief, revulsion, and helpless agony. Beyond the blasphemy, it's a terrifying depiction of abuse. Reagan is a puppet, her own body turned into a weapon against herself by an invading force. The demon isn't just possessing her, it's violating her and forcing her mother to watch. The scene isn't meant to be enjoyed as a typical horror scare. It is designed to be endured. It is deeply upsetting, repulsive, and its power to shock and horrify has not diminished one bit. And now at number 1, we arrive at the scene that has become the face of cinematic horror itself. A perfect storm of psychological collapse, claustrophobic terror, and one of the most iconic ad-libs in movie history. From Stanley Kubrick's 1980 masterpiece The Shining, it is the bathroom scene, immortalized by 2 simple words. Here's Johnny. The Overlook Hotel has done its work. Jack Torrance has completely succumbed to its evil, descending from a frustrated writer into a homicidal maniac. Armed with an axe, he has pursued his wife Wendy and son, Danny, through the empty hotel. Wendy manages to lock herself in a bathroom, a flimsy, last-ditch sanctuary. The scene is the culmination of the film's relentless, slow-burn tension. The horror here isn't a jump scare, it's the terrifying inevitability of the violence to come. Jack chops at the door with the axe. Each thud of the blade is like a heartbeat counting down Wendy's final seconds of safety. The only sounds are the splintering wood, Wendy's piercing screams, and Jack's taunting voice. Shelley Duvall's performance is pure terror, her fear feeling painfully real. After chopping a hole in the door, Jack Nicholson improvised the line that would echo through pop culture forever. He shoves his face into the opening, a leering, demonic grin spreading across his features, and snarls, "Here's Johnny," a chillingly casual reference to The Tonight Show. The line is a moment of terrifying cognitive dissonance. It's a friendly catchphrase delivered by a monster, a perfect encapsulation of the man Jack was being twisted into something horrific. It's insane and horribly darkly funny. Kubrick's meticulous direction turns the small bathroom into a cage. The camera traps us in there with Wendy, forcing us to share her helplessness. The image of Jack's face in the splintered door has become one of the most recognizable in all of film. It took 3 days and 60 doors to get this scene right, but that dedication paid off, creating the single most iconic, terrifying, and unforgettable scene in horror history. From the psychological torment of a quiet monologue to the visceral shock of an axe-wielding madman, these are the scenes that have set the standard for horror. They do more than just make us jump, they tap into our most fundamental fears, of the unknown, of losing control, and of the darkness that can lurk in familiar places and even within ourselves. These 10 scenes are legends, but what scares us is deeply personal. That's the beauty of the genre. It holds a mirror up to our own anxieties, so now it's your turn. What did we miss? What scene keeps you up at night? Head down to the comments and let us know your number 1 scariest horror scene of all time. We'd love to see what haunts your nightmares. Thanks for watching and try to get some sleep tonight.